After defeating the alien that killed her entire crew, Ripley and her cat are frozen in a cryogenic pod while their spacecraft drifts through space. Eventually the ship is intercepted by a salvage vessel, and since the crew thinks Ripley's ship is an old abandoned shuttle, they use a welding torch to make their way inside. However, their salvaging plans are dropped when they notice Ripley is alive. Sometime later Ripley wakes up in the medical bay of a space facility orbiting Earth. After a nurse checks on her, she's visited by Burke, a representative of the company Ripley works for. Burke brings her the cat and informs her that she's been in hypersleep for 57 years because her ship drifted through space until the salvage vessel found it by coincidence. Suddenly the cat hisses and triggers Ripley's PTSD, causing her to start convulsing. The staff comes over to try to restrain her while Ripley asks them to end things for her, then she pulls her shirt up to reveal something dangerous in her stomach. At that moment Ripley wakes up, confirming the last part had been a nightmare. A nurse asks her if she needs something to help her sleep, but Ripley declines. Sometime later, the company's board interrogates Ripley about what happened, so she shares everything about her fight against the alien. However, they don't believe her and consider her mentally unstable, so they revoke her flight license and submit her to psychiatric supervision. Ripley asks why they don't send people to the planet where her crew found the alien to get proof and learns that the planet, which has been named LV-426, has already been colonized for 30 years by terraformers, who are creating an atmosphere to make the place habitable. A few days later, Ripley finally is released and gets an apartment, where Burke visits her again with Lieutenant Gorman of the Colonial Marines. They tell Ripley that they lost contact with LV-426 and think it must be the aliens, so the company will send a squadron of Marines to investigate. Since Ripley has experience with these aliens, they would like her to come and be an advisor, and if she agrees, the company will reinstate her as a warrant officer. However, Ripley refuses, dreading the thought of going back and frustrated at the company's two-faced attitude toward her. That night Ripley wakes up from another terrible nightmare and realizes this won't stop until she confronts her fears. She calls Burke, and after he assures her that the mission to LV-426 is to kill all the aliens and not to study them, she agrees to join the mission. Later Ripley and Burke board a warship known as the Silico, where they meet the Colonial Marines led by Gorman. The group is just waking up from hypersleep and Ripley notices they don't take the alien threat very seriously. During lunch, the Marines play a game with a knife. A bishop accidentally cuts his finger. When Ripley sees him bleed white, she freaks out as she realizes he's an android because during her last mission, another android betrayed them in order to study the alien. Bishop assures her that the new generation of androids have behavioral inhibitors and are incapable of hurting humans, but Ripley angrily dismisses him. Afterward, during a mission briefing, Ripley tells the Marines about her experiences with the alien so they know what to expect, but they still don't take her seriously. Wanting to prove herself, she offers to help them load their dropship and expertly handles a large power loader, which is a hydraulically enhanced suit. After gathering lots of firepower, the Marines board the dropship and fly over the colony, noticing there isn't any visible activity, which is weird because the structure is intact and they still have power. Once they land, the soldiers get on an armored personnel carrier or APC to enter the colony itself by forcing the doors open. They start searching the building with motion trackers and discover the place is empty, but there appears to be evidence of a big battle in the form of barricades, hits from small arms, and even acid burns on the ground, which prove the presence of aliens because they have acid for blood. They conclude the building is safe for now, but Ripley is skeptical. Then Gorman, Burke, and Ripley enter the colony too. In the medical lab, they're surprised to find a series of stasis pods with aliens that snap at them when they get too close. Bishop finds a file describing an attempt to remove an alien from one of its victims before it could implant an embryo, and the removal resulted in the death of the subject. Suddenly they see something moving on the tracker, and when they carefully move to check, something runs in the shadows and the soldiers waste a few bullets. Then the group takes a closer look and they're shocked to discover a little girl called Newt. She's clearly afraid of them and runs away when the soldiers try to grab her, so Ripley follows her into a trash chute, hugging her and talking gently to her until Newt agrees to leave with her. Afterward the group returns to the ship, but Newt refuses to speak. Once again Ripley is patient and gentle until Newt trusts her. The girl explains everyone else is dead and thinks the Marines can't do anything against the aliens. Meanwhile Bishop studies the aliens they found, calling them magnificent. At the main computer, Hudson tracks down the colonists because they all have homing devices embedded in their skin. He eventually finds them all together in the processing station under the main cooling towers in sublevel 3. The soldiers leave on the APC again and start going down the sublevels, noticing that there's interference in their radios. On sublevel 2, they discover some organic hive-like structures that must have been secreted by the aliens. Ripley realizes that the Marines are walking next to the colony's reactor and that their weapons could cause a nuclear explosion, so Gorman orders them to drop their ammunition and only keep the flamethrowers. However, Vasquez and Drake secretly reactivate their smart guns anyway. When they finally reach sublevel 3, they find an alien hive containing the bodies of the colonists, cocooned as hosts for the alien parasites. The Marines carefully move around and eventually find a colonist who is still alive and begs for mercy. The woman suddenly starts to convulse and an infant alien bursts out of her chest, but the Marines act quickly and kill it with a flamethrower. Unfortunately, all the noise wakes up the warrior aliens, which are hiding inside the walls. The soldiers get signals on the motion trackers but can't see the creatures, which suddenly attack by surprise and capture a soldier. This causes a misfire of the flamethrower and lights a Marine on fire, who falls off the edge of the platform. This also starts a fire, and before the others can run away, the flames cause an ammunition stash to explode. Chaos ensues, and while some of the soldiers try to guess where the attacks are coming from, Vasquez and Drake open fire at random. The panic doesn't let them hear Gorman's attempts to organize defense tactics through the radio. The aliens start killing the Marines one by one, and Gorman doesn't know what to do, causing Ripley to yell at him. Since Gorman still doesn't react, Ripley takes control of the APC and drives it through the colony, crashing through the nest to find the 4 surviving Marines. An alien tries to follow them and Vasquez shoots to kill it, only for the alien to bleed acid all over Drake, killing him. Another alien tries to reach inside the vehicle, so the Marines rush to close the doors and Hicks kills it with a shotgun blast, which causes an acid burn on Hudson's arm. The APC accidentally catches on fire as Ripley drives away and the shaking knocks Gorman out. One more alien lands on top of the APC and breaks the glass to try to attack Ripley, but she stops the vehicle to make it fall and then runs over it to kill it. The front gate is closed, so Ripley crashes through it to escape and destroys the APC's transaxle in the process, meaning the vehicle stops working after a few miles. Afterward, the group discusses how to proceed and Ripley suggests nuking the entire colony. Burke protests because he must protect the company's assets and thinks nobody has the right to exterminate an entire alien species. The soldiers are on Ripley's side and she points out that this is a military operation now, so Corporal Hicks is in command. Hicks authorizes Ripley's idea and the group leaves the APC to shoot a flare. The pilots in the dropship see it and get ready for rescue, but as they take off they notice a weird slime on the ramp. It turns out an alien has sneaked inside and now kills a pilot, causing the dropship to fall and crash in an explosion. The team rushes to hide while parts of the dropship hit the APC, destroying most of the team's weaponry. The team is now stranded, so they decide to hide inside the colony for now. The radio works and they call for a rescue team, which will arrive in 17 days. After checking on the remaining weapons to know what they're working with, the group looks at a map of the colony and decides to seal off all possible access routes for the aliens into the main complex. The sentry guns are placed at strategic locations, and Hicks gives Ripley a wrist tracker. Afterward, Ripley puts Newt to bed, but the girl is too scared to sleep. To help her feel safe, Ripley puts the tracker on her wrist. Later, Bishop discovers that the alien's acid blood neutralizes after exposure to air. The group discusses the alien colony and concludes there must be a queen. There are still 2 dead aliens in the lab pods and Ripley asks Bishop to destroy them, but he says he got orders from Burke to keep them alive. A furious Ripley confronts Burke, who wants to take the aliens to Earth because the weapons industry will pay well for them. Ripley reveals she's checked the colony log and learned that Burke was responsible for sending the colonists to the alien ship after he heard her tell the story, blaming him for their deaths. Burke claims he only wanted to prove her experience and made a simple mistake, so Ripley pushes him against the wall and swears to expose him when they return to Earth. Minutes later, they notice the emergency venting going off on the other side of the colony. This means the cooling units have failed and the core will explode within 4 hours. Damage from the crash has made it impossible to shut down the reactor from afar, so someone must go to the link tower and manually remote pilot the second dropship. Bishop volunteers since he's the only one who knows how anyway. While Bishop starts making his way through a narrow conduit, Hicks teaches Ripley how to use some advanced weaponry, and Hudson and Vasquez check the perimeter. Gorman soon regains consciousness and tries to apologize for his behavior, but Ripley ignores him. Then she goes to the bedroom to check on Newt and finds her sleeping under the bed, so Ripley joins her because she needs to sleep too. Eventually, Bishop reaches the tower and starts preparing the other dropship for departure. Moments later, Ripley wakes up to find the empty lab pods on the floor, meaning the sample aliens have escaped. She also notices that someone took her rifle. Suddenly, an alien jumps near the bed and tries to attack them, so the duo gets away and Ripley turns the bed on the creature. Then they try the doors, only to find them locked. The room is soundproof and nobody can hear them scream, so Ripley tries to signal through the security camera. However, while the crew is distracted hearing Bishop's updates, Burke turns off the monitor. Next, Ripley tries to break the glass, but it doesn't work either. Noticing the fire sensors, Ripley uses her lighter to activate it. The alarm goes off and finally gets the attention of the soldiers, who rush to the lab while an alien jumps on Ripley. She pushes it away, yet the alien jumps on her again and closes a limb around her neck while the other alien goes after Newt. The soldiers finally arrive and break the glass with a few shots. Soon Hudson is killing the alien that is about to get Newt with his weapon and the others help Ripley. After lots of struggle, they manage to rip it off and Vasquez kills it with a pulse rifle. Afterward, Ripley exposes Burke to the crew, explaining he intended to impregnate her and Newt with aliens and sabotage the other Marine sleeping pods to eliminate any witnesses. Then he would return to Earth with the aliens smuggled in the bodies of Ripley and Newt. Burke denies everything, but the others believe her, so they discuss what to do with him. At that moment the power is cut off, so Vasquez and Hudson walk the perimeter and see on the trackers that there's movement all over the place. The crew gathers in the central operations room and seals the door, yet the tracker shows the army of aliens coming closer. When they look up, they discover panels on the ceiling and remove one to discover the aliens have sneaked inside through the crawlspaces over the ceiling. The crew opens fire and the aliens drop into the room, so a brutal fight begins. Burke uses the distraction to escape and locks the door behind him, but Alien finds an alternate route into that room and quickly kills him. Hudson puts up a brave fight and kills a bunch of aliens, but sadly he's surrounded by several creatures that take him away. The group manages to force the door open and gets in the corridor while the aliens try to bring the door down. At that moment Newt finds an entrance into the air ducts, so the team escapes through them while Newt serves as a guide. Bishop gets in contact with them and informs them the ship will be ready in 16 minutes. Vasquez is the last one on the line and uses every single weapon she has to keep the aliens at bay, but when she shoots an alien with her handgun, it spills acid blood and hurts her leg. Gorman goes back to help her only to suddenly be surrounded by aliens, so they activate their last grenade to bring them all down, dying in the process. The others are escaping through a ventilation shaft, but the explosion causes Newt to slip and fall to the sewer at the bottom of the facility. Using the wrist tracker, Ripley and Hicks reach the corridor above the sewer and see Newt through the grates. Hick begins cutting the grate open, but unfortunately an alien appears in the water and attacks Newt. By the time the duo opens a hole, the girl is gone. Hicks and Ripley rush to the elevator, but an alien appears and tries to reach inside. Hicks quickly kills it, getting wounds from its acid in the process. Ripley helps him walk and soon they leave the building, where Bishop picks them up in the dropship. However, Ripley refuses to leave without Newt, knowing she must be alive because the aliens use humans to procreate. She grabs a bunch of weapons and returns to the building after Bishop reminds her she only has 19 minutes before the place explodes. After taking the elevator to sublevel 3, Ripley advances through the corridors while flashing the flamethrower just in case. She's devastated to find the wrist tracker on the ground, but at that moment Newt screams when she sees an alien being born. Ripley follows the noise and shoots the creature, only for a big alien to come out as well. After shooting it down too, Ripley rescues Newt from the cocoon and starts running with the girl in her arms as they avoid an explosion. They take a wrong turn and enter a chamber where they find thousands of eggs and the huge alien queen, who calls her warriors to defend the nest. However, Ripley threatens to destroy the eggs with her flamethrower, so the queen signals the warriors to retreat. Ripley and Newt slowly back out of the egg chamber, but at that moment an egg hatches and Ripley uses her flamethrower again. She burns down all the eggs and the queen goes mad, calling her warriors again. Ripley then fires a series of bullets and grenades into the eggs, the warrior aliens, and the queen's egg sac, blowing it all up. Afterward, Ripley and Newt run away and get in the elevator while explosions continue to go off around them. An alien tries to ambush them, but she quickly guns it down before the elevator finally takes them away. The duo reaches the platform with 2 minutes remaining. The dropship isn't there. At that moment the other elevator arrives and the queen emerges, but Ripley is out of ammo. Thankfully Bishop arrives with the dropship and the duo quickly goes inside, managing to fly away right before the entire building blows up. Moments later, the group is back on the Silico and Hicks is sedated for the pain. While Ripley thanks Bishop for his help, something suddenly stabs him from the back. It's the queen, who managed to sneak into the dropship before the explosion. After breaking Bishop in two, she approaches the others, so Ripley keeps the queen's attention on her while Newt hides under the flooring. Then Ripley runs to hide behind a door. The queen can't open it, so it starts ripping the floor plates up until she has Newt cornered. At that moment Ripley reappears in the forklift suit and starts fighting the alien with it. She punches the queen several times and tries to dump her into the ship's airlock, but the queen quickly grabs hold of the power loader and Ripley gets dragged down with her. By leaving the suit, Ripley manages to get out and climb up the ladder, only for the queen to grab her leg. Then Ripley opens the outer lock door, causing air to rush out of the ship. The queen desperately tries to hold onto Ripley's foot, but her shoe comes off and the alien is blown out into space. Newt almost gets blown too, but Bishop's upper torso is still functioning, so he grabs onto the floor grill to hold himself in place and his other hand grabs Newt just in time. With lots of effort, Ripley manages to pull herself up out of the airlock and closes the airlock, barely pulling her leg out in time. Now that they're truly safe, the whole crew gets ready to hypersleep while the ship takes them back to Earth. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you can watch more videos like this. Thanks for watching.